Welcome to Malifaux University. 207. Friendly, Enemy, and Control. While you should always strive to play friendly games in which both you and your opponent can enjoy the time spent, regardless of the outcome of the game, friendly is a subjective term. Determining who is friendly and who is an enemy can come into question when controlling your opponent's models, but it shouldn't have to. Simply put, any model you hire or summon, and any marker or terrain you drop or create, is friendly to you. Any model your opponent hires or summons, and any marker or terrain your opponent drops or creates, is an enemy to you. Whatever is friendly to you is enemy to your opponent, and whatever is friendly to your opponent is an enemy to you. Also, each model is considered friendly to itself. If you use an ability or action that says, target a friendly model, this can apply to the model taking the action unless it says, other friendly model. Friendly and enemy even applies to your deployment zones. The edges of the table within your deployment zone and any corners of the table touched by your deployment zone are friendly to you and enemy to your opponent. Any table, edge, or corner that is not part of either deployment zone is neutral. Other terms to know are friendly controlled and enemy controlled. As they imply, a model is friendly controlled if it is currently controlled by its own crew, another model in its own crew, or the player who owns it. An enemy-controlled model is one that is currently controlled by the enemy crew, an enemy model, or the other player. Certain schemes and strategies will refer to these terms and often cannot be scored by an enemy-controlled model, which usually eliminates the possibility of your models being forced to score points for your opponent. Hopefully, this seems pretty straightforward, and you're wondering why this is even a video. It's because determining friendly and enemy can trip up players when they overthink it, especially when they get to control another model on the table. In the next few minutes, we'll see what happens when a model attacks a friendly model, when a model controls a friendly model, and when it controls an enemy model. When you have a model attack a friendly model, you probably don't want the target to put up a fight and waste cards trying to make the attack fail. In this case, you have the target model relent, and not flip any cards to resist the attack. The attacking model must still flip to ensure a successful attack and possibly hit a suit for a trigger, but that's all. Let's see this in action. Dashiell Barker is the master of this guild crew that includes Taggart Queeg and a guard patrol. They're raiding the Honeypot Casino, and Dashiell has taken some damage from the doped-up Illuminated and is down to 3 health. Taggart wants to help out Dashiell, but cannot reach the Illuminated, so he targets the guard patrol with his barbed whip. The guard patrol takes one for the team and relents. Since he is a henchman, Taggart can use soulstones. He spends his crew's last soulstone to put a ram on his flip. He flips an 8 of tomes, giving him a total of 14. When a friendly model attacks another friendly model, the player controlling the defending model must decide before any cards are flipped in the duel whether or not to relent. When it's the same player controlling both models, as in the case of Taggart Queeg and the guard patrol, it's simple. The attacking friendly model still flips normally. The defending friendly model flips no cards, and his duel total is considered to be the same as the attacking models. That matching total puts a double negative modifier on the damage flip from this attack, if it's the sort of attack that does damage. Taggart is fine with the double negative modifier to his damage flip because he doesn't want to hurt the guard patrol too badly. Taggart flips 3 cards and takes the lowest value, the 2 of rams, doing weak damage to the guard patrol. The ram Taggart put on his attack with the soulstone triggers My Loyal Servant, which says another model within 3 inches of the guard patrol now heals 1, 2, or 3 points of damage. Since triggers are affected by the same modifiers that affected the original duel, Taggart has a double negative modifier to this healing flip. Lucky for him, he flips an 8, a 12, and a 10. He has to take the 8, and heals Dashiell 2 points. One important rule to remember about targeting friendly models is that those attacks will not generate blast markers. A blast marker is a 50mm base that is placed in contact with the target's base, giving damage one tier lower to any models within that 50mm. If the Dawn Serpent were to target the illuminated model with Breath of Fire, thinking that it would get to hit Dashiell Barker and the Guard Patrol with a blast marker, it would be wrong. The illuminated would get baked for nothing because targeting friendly models doesn't generate blast markers. Stupid dragon. Controlling other models is where many players get turned around in terms of friendly and enemy. The most important rule to remember is that just because someone else is controlling your model, it doesn't change who that model's friends are. Obey is a powerful attack action that several models have. Since the details will vary from one model to another, we'll look at Hungering Darkness. It comes with a 6 of masks in the stat, and the target number is 14 of masks. So Hungering Darkness has to flip an 8 or better to make it happen, but always gets the mask trigger. When it works, the target model takes nearly any non-bonus action that Hungering Darkness gets to choose. This is not limited to what is printed on the target model's card. Hungering Darkness could force a model to interact, concentrate, assist another model, or charge. Let's look at this in use with a friendly model and then an enemy model. Hungering Darkness casts Obey on the illuminated model engaging the Guard Patrol and Dashiell Barker. You might think you'd have friendly fire to deal with, but look again. There is no pistol next to the range, so this is not a projectile attack. The same player controls both models and decides in advance that the illuminated model will relent. Hungering Darkness flips a 9 of masks to go with the 6 of masks in the stat for a total of 15 of masks. The illuminated does not flip any cards to resist. Before we can have the illuminated take his action, we have to finish this Obey action. The illuminated gains 2 Brilliance tokens from the Light Inside trigger for the 2 masks that were in Hungering Darkness's final duel total, the one in the stat and the one flipped on the card. With that done, Hungering Darkness chooses the Illuminated's Tear Apart attack and targets Dashiell Barker. The Illuminated and Dashiell then go through their opposed duel like any other, including any triggers that may arise naturally. Let's say Dashiell suffers 3 damage, taking him back to 2 health. Hungering Darkness has one more action, so he targets Taggart Queeg with Obey. There is no option to relent when an enemy model attacks, not that Taggart would want to go along with this anyway, so he resists with his willpower, as stated on Hungering Darkness's card. Hungering Darkness flips a 10 of rams, giving him a total of 16. Taggart flips a 10 as well, tying the Darkness's total. Unfortunately for Taggart, ties go to the attacker, and he loses the duel. We'll say he has nothing better in his hand to cheat with. Hungering Darkness chooses Barbed Whip and has Taggart target Dashiell Barker. This is where choosing the attack can be particularly sinister. The wording of the Barbed Whip says, if the target is at half its maximum health or below, this action receives a positive modifier to its duel. Nothing in that wording distinguishes between friendly or enemy models. Since Dashiell is down to 2 health, this Barbed Whip will have a positive modifier. This leads to the biggest rule of controlling an enemy model. Any cards that model flips come from your deck. If the model can use Soulstones and you want him to spend one, it comes from your Soulstone pool. Any cards, tokens, or markers that must be discarded come from your resources. Make sure you have the resources you need before you choose your attacks. On the flip side, if that model you control gains any cards, Soulstones, or other resources, they go to you since you're controlling him. Back to the duel. Taggart is a henchman and can spend Soulstones, so Hungering Darkness takes a look at his Barbed Whip triggers. If Hungering Darkness spends a Soulstone from his own pool to have Taggart put a ram on the attack, another model within 3 inches of Dashiell Barker gets to heal. It doesn't say friendly model, so that could heal the Illuminated after that idiot Dawn Serpent attacked him. If he puts a mask on the attack, another friendly model may take a melee action targeting the same model. The Guard Patrol is a friendly model to Taggart Queeg, and within range to use his sword against Dashiell Barker. Hungering Darkness could not use the Siphon Essence trigger from a crow, however, since it says enemy only, and were forcing Taggart to attack a friendly model. Just to be particularly wicked and get the most out of his action, Hungering Darkness spends a Soul Stone through Taggart to put a mask on the attack. The player controlling Hungering Darkness would have explained this thought process to the guild player, so now the guild player must make a choice before any cards are flipped in this duel. If he resists the attack, he might beat it and suffer no damage. If he relents to the attack, he saves some cards and guarantees a double negative modifier to the damage flip. He feels lucky and chooses to resist Taggart's attack. Using Hungering Darkness's deck, Taggart flips 2 cards and chooses the 12 of Rams, giving him a total of 18. Dashel flips a 4 of Tomes, giving him a total of 10. He has nothing better in his hand to cheat with, and no Soul Stones left, so Dashel curses his luck and braces for impact. Hungering Darkness declares the coordinated attack trigger from the mask and flips a single card for damage, again from his own deck. He flips a 12, which does 3 points of damage. Dashel's armor ability reduces this by 1, and he suffers 2 damage, enough to kill him. The opposing player drops a corpse marker into base contact and removes Dashel from the playing area. What about the coordinated attack trigger? It specifically says another friendly model targets the same model, and that model is no longer alive. Hungering Darkness cannot change the trigger to the ram he flipped because he already declared the mask trigger. It's just wasted, but that's okay. One more example to clarify an issue that has caused many players, this one included, much consternation. When controlling an enemy model, you have to spend any resources you make that model use, such as cards and soulstones. This prevents you from burning up your opponent's deck, tokens, and soulstone pool. But if you force an enemy model to drop a marker, though, the prevailing rule states, when a model drops a marker, it is friendly to the crew controlling the model that dropped it. Let's see this play out. It's later in the game, and the Ten Thunders crew is playing a scheme that needs scheme markers dropped in order to score points. Hungering Darkness uses Obey on Taggart Queeg again. Taggart resists the attack with his willpower. He flips a 5 for a total of 11, while Hungering Darkness flips an 8 for a total of 14. Taggart sighs and loses the duel. Hungering Darkness chooses for Taggart to take the Interact action and drop a scheme marker. Since the Ten Thunders is controlling the guild model, the scheme marker will be friendly to the Ten Thunders, who also gets to choose where it goes. Taggart drops a Ten Thunders scheme marker right where Hungering Darkness wants him to. For his second action, Hungering Darkness could take the Interact action himself and drop another scheme marker as long as it was 4 inches or farther away from the one Taggart Queeg just dropped. It may be challenging, but keep these terms straight and you should do fine. This model is the model on whose card the attack is printed. The target model is the one being attacked or controlled. Other model can be any other model within range, friendly or enemy, but not this model. Friendly and enemy are always from the point of view of the model taking the action and do not change throughout the game. That's the overview of friendly, enemy, and control. Pick up a printable set of all the markers and tokens you need to play Malifaux in the Wargames Vault. If you haven't already, join our Patreon for early, ad-free access to all new content, and be sure to visit the Malifaux University gift shop for the latest in Malifaux-themed shirts, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Links are in the notes below. And remember, play friendly games, keep it simple, and have fun.